Hello and welcome, friends. Today, now that we have completed our discussion on state interventions in the business world, now we are going to discuss the social responsibility of business. Right? Uh, Now, what do we mean by the social responsibility of business? Obligation to take actions to promote societal welfare. According to this philosophy, according to this school of thought, the businesses are obligated to, they have a duty to do something for the benefit of the society. They have a duty to do something for the betterment of the people in the society. So this approach says that if a particular business does these kind of activities, it is not that it is some kind of a benevolent act on their part, rather it is their duty to serve the society, to do something for the benefit of the society. It's their obligation. Obligation means duty. They are obliged to do something for the benefit of the society, for the betterment of the society. Now, this is what social responsibility of business is all about. However, there are other terms also. In fact, this second term, the corporate social responsibility, has now become more prominent. And what do we mean by corporate social responsibility? Have a look. Corporate means the firm or the business, and the social responsibility of the business, of the various business firms, right? Now let us talk about how this approach has evolved over the years. What was the genesis of this approach as far as our country is concerned, that the corporates have a responsibility towards the society too also. So what is the genesis? What was the time when this particular thought, this particular philosophy originated, right? So basically you would find that if, for example, if you have closely read about the independence struggle, and you have read about the thoughts, the writings of Gandhiji, you would find that it was Gandhiji who gave this philosophy, which was then named as the trusteeship philosophy. Now let us understand what do we mean by trusteeship philosophy. Now, according to him, even if a business firm has been set up by a private entrepreneur, it has been set up by private investment, even then it belongs to the whole society. The profit that should be earned by that particular business firm should be used for the well-being of the whole society, should be used for the betterment of the whole society. And according to Gandhiji, the owners, they should not consider themselves to be the owners of a particular business. They should rather think of themselves as trustees. They should rather think of themselves as representatives of the society who are managing the business, who are managing the day-to-day operations of the business firm as representatives of the society. So this is what Gandhiji at that point of time propounded during the freedom struggle in his various writings and various speeches. The businesses should not consider themselves, the owners should not consider themselves to be the sole owner. They should rather run the business enterprise as though they are running it as representatives of the common people, of the masses. So this is the Gandhiji's trusteeship approach. Business owners are not actually owners. This is what he said. He said they are trustees of society, and they should be running the business on the behalf of the society, and whatever profit should be earned, that should be utilized for the benefit of the society. All the business operations should take into consideration the benefit of the society. This is what he preached, right? And there were so many people at that point of time, and including big businessmen, who attested to this philosophy of Gandhiji, and they did so many things to improve the standard of living of people, to be able to contribute to the betterment of the society, for the upliftment of the depressed sections of the society, poorer sections of the society. So there were so many leading businessmen, leading industrialists at that point of time who participated in the freedom struggle, and they also did a lot of philanthropy. Now, what do we mean by philanthropy? I hope you remember your word power made easy. Phil means loving, and anthropos means humankind. So somebody who loves humankind, and basically philanthropy is basically donating for the betterment of the society, doing something for the betterment of the society. Now this is called philanthropy. In today's world, if you look at the global scenario, you would find that Bill Gates has donated a significant chunk of his own property for the betterment of the society, and that is why he is considered to be the leading philanthropist of this age. If you talk about the scenario here in India, you would find Ajim Premji of the Wipro group. He also has pledged a considerable amount, a considerable proportion of his property for philanthropic activities. So these are considered to be leading philanthropists of today's era, right? Now we are, however, talking about the businessmen, the leading businessmen who participated in the freedom struggle and who actually supported Gandhiji's thoughts regarding the trusteeship model. And one guy whose name we can certainly take here is Mr. Jamnalal Bajaj. At that point of time, he was actually running the Bajaj enterprise. Now please understand, now this is the same Bajaj of which the offspring now you see as Bajaj Motors, the leading marketer as far as the two-wheelers are concerned here in India. Now, so what Shri Jamnalal Bajaj did at that point of time, he established the Sasta Sahitya Mandal publishing house. Sasta Sahitya, Sasta means inexpensive, not very costly. So Sasta Sahitya Mandal publishing house was established by him, and the idea was not to have any kind of profit, or the motive was not to earn any profit. The idea was to promote the use of Hindi at that point of time. Hindi was one language which was considered a pan-Indian language, and it was considered a language of our revolution also, and that is why he felt that he should be contributing something to the spread, to assist the spread of Hindi as the national language. And so what did he do? He actually established this Sasta Sahitya Mandal publishing house so that he could promote Hindi, and so many books and so many different types of books were published by Sasta Sahitya Mandal, and they were circulated at very low prices among the people who were interested in reading Hindi, right? So this was what Shri Jamnalal Bajaji did. If you are preparing for your CAT, you would know that there is one Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management down south, and this particular institute has been named after Shri Jamnalal Bajaji only, right? Now let us talk about Mr. G.D. Birla, Ghanshyam Das G. Birla. Now what did he do? Now this was a commemorative stamp which was issued by the government of India in the memory of Shri Ghanshyam Das Birla ji, Shri G.D. Birla ji. Now he is the person who is the founder of the Birla Empire. You have heard of so many Birla enterprises, be it the cement sector, be it the textile, be it the telecommunication. So the founder was Shri G.D. Birla, and he established an institute which is today known as the Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences in his hometown of Pilani in Rajasthan. And now if you look at, some more bits have come up in the last few decades, in, for example, in Mesra, and then there is one more Institute of Applied Science, Birla Institute of Applied Science in Bhimtal, in the Nainital district, right? So the bits in Pilani, the Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, Pilani was basically set up by Shri Ghanshyam Das Ji Birla, and he set up that particular institute to make available, to make technological education easily available to people in his home town of Pilani in Rajasthan, right? Then we have also Shri Ambalal Sarabhai ji, who is well known for having started so many schools and hospitals in the state of Gujarat. At that point of time, the state of Gujarat was not exactly known by this particular name, and Gujarat was basically part of the Bombay presidency at that point of time. However, in the Gujarat of today, he actually set up these schools and hospitals for philanthropic purpose, right? So this is the kind of tradition that we have had here in India of the businesses considering it their responsibility to serve the society. Apart from making profit, they should also be serving the society. This kind of philosophy has always existed there in India. Now let us talk about the contrary viewpoints as far as the CSR activities are concerned, corporate social responsibility activities are concerned, because there are two different schools of thought. One supports CSR activities and it says that CSR should be an obligation that should come naturally to a business firm. On the other hand, we have got the other school who says that CSR is a waste of time and the businesses are not equipped to do things for societal welfare. So we'll have a look at both the viewpoints just to have an understanding, and just in case we are required to analyze, some analytical skills are required by us, we would be able to analyze the CSR initiatives of the current firms in the light of contrary viewpoints that we have, right? Contrary means opposing. Now let's look at the school of thought which says that there is no requirement of CSR, no basis. Why should you go for CSR? You should not at all devote time and energy and resources to CSR activities. Now what do they do? What do they say? First, they say that the business operates for profit maximization and to serve the interest of the shareholder. Naturally, this is absolutely true. The business doesn't exist to maximize profit so that the owners of the business, so the shareholders who own the business, their interests could be served. Absolutely correct. Now what do they say? Now since this is the fundamental principle, profit maximization or serving the interest of the shareholder, so these are the fundamental principles around which a business is set up. They say that CSR activities is a waste of time because first thing, they would incur you cost. Naturally, you would require to spend some money and you would have to spend some resources, you would have to deploy some resources which is going to again incur you some cost. And when this happens, the overall profit of the company will get suppressed because the costs have increased, because you are also doing CSR activities. So the costs have increased, the overall returns for the company will reduce, and since the returns of the company will reduce, this would not be liked by the shareholders because their returns are tied up with the returns of the company, and the company returns are getting reduced because of incurring significant cost in CSR activities. So the shareholders would not like it, and it would also be against their interest. It would not be able to serve their interest. So there should not be any resources devoted to CSR activities. These businesses should not involve themselves in CSR activities. Again, they are also saying that the CSR diverts time and resources again from profit maximization motives. So naturally you would not be able to maximize profit. You would be diverting your time and resources. A business would be diverting its time and resources. Naturally, the objective of achieving maximum profit would suffer. So not only the firm would make less profit, this is what this school says, but also the shareholders would also not be very happy because their dividend earnings have reduced. Again, one more objection that this school of thought has is that generally whenever we go to a field, businesses are known to measure their performance on a continuous basis and use that measurement, use that analysis to further improve their operations. Now this is how the businesses operate. If they don't do this, they would get wiped out. They would not be able to survive for long. So however, what happens in case of CSR activities, and this is why spending money on CSR activities is being opposed. What happens in case of CSR activities, please understand. Generally, whether a CSR activity has been effective or not, that is measured not by the outcomes, not measured by the results of the CSR activity, but measured by how much money has been spent on that CSR activity, how much of the company resources have been used for that particular CSR activity, which according to the naysayers, those who say that CSR is not a good idea, according to them it is a very, very faulty procedure, because you are not evaluating the efficiency of your CSR activities through the result. You are actually evaluating by just looking at how much you have spent. So it is like saying that, for example, supposing a company adopts a village, let's say in Pithoragarh. Now they would not be measuring whether their adoption of village has led to any considerable improvement in the standard of living for the people residing in that village. Has it led to some increase in literacy rate in that particular village? Has it led to improvement in healthcare facilities in that particular village? Has that given more employment opportunities to people? So these kind of outcome based assessments would not be there. Rather the assessment would be made on the basis of how much has been spent. So probably the firm which has adopted the village will not be tracking how many employment opportunities their intervention has created in the village, but they would be doing what? They would be assessing the effectiveness of CSR activity based on how much money they have spent. How much more money than the last year have they spent? So this is how they are going to try and assess their efficiency. Naturally, this is a faulty method of efficiency assessment, and naturally the focus would only be on the process and not on the result. However, the main objective is to get the result. So if you are spending some money on a particular village which you have adopted, but the village, there is no improvement in the human indicators, quality of life indicators in that village, despite your having adopted that particular village, then probably there is no use of these kind of CSR activities. Is this okay? So this is what the naysayers say. But then there are people who say that no, CSR has its own benefits, and CSR is not some kind of philanthropic activity. It is some kind of a duty for the businesses. Why and what are their arguments? Let's have a look. First, they say that the corporates use societal resources. For example, corporates use societal manpower to manage their operations. They recruit people from the society. Not only this, they are using up the land, which is basically a property of the society. They are using up air, which is basically a property of the society. They might be using the woods in the forest for their manufacturing activities. Now again, this particular resource belongs to the society, though they might be purchasing it, but still it belongs to the society. It is a society that has caused the availability of these kind of resources. So naturally, if the businesses are taking the societal resources, then naturally they should also do something for the society. So in that sense, they are obliged to do something for the betterment of the society, because after all, they are dependent on these resources provided by the society. Now again, the second argument made by these people, those who belong to this particular, who say that yes, we should have CSR activities. So the other argument forwarded by this particular section is that this is the argument, corporate citizenship argument. What do we mean by this? Just like we people are citizens of a particular country and we are bound to fulfill our duty towards that country, we are bound to behave like good citizens, we are bound to conduct ourselves in a way a good citizen would do. Just in the similar fashion, even corporates are the citizens of a particular society. Even the corporate organizations, even the business firms, they are like citizens of a society, and as such, just like the citizens, they are also bound to fulfill their obligation towards the society. They are also bound by some rules of conduct which are there for an individual citizen also, and they are also bound by the expectation that they should do what? They should behave like a productive citizen of the society. And how do they do this? How do they ensure this? By doing something for the betterment of the society, by discharging their obligation towards the betterment of the society, towards the society. So this is the other argument that is put forward by the people who support CSR activities. Now, however, the people who support, they also talk about these three aspects which have been talked about by the naysayers. They do agree that the CSR activities ultimately help the organization in maximizing profit, and in thus doing and in this manner, these CSR activities will help the business firms do what? Serve their shareholders' interest, serve the best interest of their shareholders. And how are the businesses able to do this? First thing that they say is that the CSR activities actually helps and improves the image of the company. And since the image has been improved, there is a positive perception about the company among the customers. There are more chances of product getting sold. If all other things are equal, the customers would want to purchase from a firm which is known for its CSR activities, right? It is easier for these kind of organizations who engage in CSR activities to recruit people, because people want to work with these kind of reputed firms. It is easier for them to recruit people. It is easier for them to have access to manpower. They are able to project a very favorable image in the customers, which might help them bring more sales. Not only this, they are respected by the general society, they are respected by the governments of the day as well. So in that sense, engaging in CSR activity will ultimately result into many-fold benefits, into many benefits. And this would be more than the amount spent in CSR activities. And so, if you engage in CSR activities as a firm, you would be able to do what? You would be able to maximize your profit, and this would also serve the interest of the shareholders. So these supporters of CSR activities, they are not actually arguing against these three reasons put forward by the naysayers. No, they are not arguing against them. They are only saying that CSR activities would ultimately lead to profit maximization only. That is the main concern of naysayers. To shareholder interest only. That is again the main concern of the CSR naysayers. Naysayer would mean those who don't support CSR activities. Naysayers, naysayers, saying no. That is what we mean. So they're not, these people who support CSR activities, they're not arguing against these 3 points put forward by the naysayers, but they're saying that involving in CSR activities will only help profit maximization, will only serve shareholder interest, will only increase the shareholder returns, because the company would be able to earn more profit because of the good image that it has been able to project among the customers, and because of so many other things like this. And naturally they would then be able to serve the shareholder interest. Again, they also put forward other arguments which says that many a time CSR activity will help you avoid costly lawsuits. If you yourself engage in CSR activity, then there are less chances that the customers or some consumer groups in the society, they might turn against you. There are less chances of them turning against you and going to the court against you. So naturally you will be able to avoid costly lawsuits also, costly cases also, costly complaints also which have been lodged against you, just because you will have a very good image, a very positive image in the general society because of your CSR activities. So I hope you have understood the both the sides of the argument, and I also hope that you have now been able to understand as to which side has more weight in its arguments, right? So for example, if this kind of a question comes up in exams, what you do, you start with the arguments made by the naysayers and then say why CSR is not a good practice, and then you move over to the arguments made by the CSR supporters, right? Now, one thing however has to be kept in mind. You should not, as a business firm, never do CSR activities without any planning or mindlessly. It's not as if doing CSR activities without any well thought out purpose is going to be of any help. So you should first of all think the initiative through, think it through. What will you be doing, and how will that particular initiative by you feed into your own business? So this is something that you have to keep in mind. CSR initiative should ultimately feed into your own business. They should ultimately help you improve your business prospects. And I have given some examples here. For example, what does Microsoft do? Microsoft in many places, it organizes computer literary sessions for people who do not know how to operate computers. Now what do they, when they do these kind of activities as CSR activity, they don't charge anything, and they do it just to be of some benefit to the society. But when they do this, don't you think ultimately they are helping out their own business? How? See, when the computer literacy will increase, people know more about computer, then don't you think at least some of them might want to buy a computer? At least some of them might want to buy a computer would mean that more computers would get sold. And then in computers, if you look at the system software, you would find that most of the computers have the Microsoft's system software. Yes or no? So in that case, what will happen? More computers getting sold, so more computer firms would be able to sell their computers, and naturally they would ask Microsoft for more number of system softwares, because ultimately Microsoft system software is installed in these computers. Likewise, Lifebuoy, which is basically Hindustan Unilever Limited. So HUL product it is, HUL brand it is, and it has been running oral hygiene awareness sessions in schools, in towns and semi-urban areas and rural areas. So they are doing it absolutely free of cost, and the whole objective is to be able to assist the society. But then this particular initiative is also helping them. How is it helping them? When people are more aware about oral hygiene, oral means related to your mouth and teeth and tongues. So if people are more aware of oral hygiene, what will they do? They are more likely to buy toothpaste and tooth powders and toothbrushes. And when they buy more toothpaste and tooth powder and toothbrushes, what will happen? Don't you think it will lead to more sales for HUL products? Just a moment. I have probably taken up a slightly unconnected example. I'll let you know as to what was wrong in this example. Oral hygiene awareness. Actually, they don't run oral hygiene, they run hygiene awareness workshops, right? So they are earning hygiene awareness, because now people have to be made more aware of these kind of issues. They have to be more aware about personal hygiene, and since people would be more aware, what would they do? They would buy more of Lifebuoy. Lifebuoy is a soap. So I was talking about the oral hygiene. Oral hygiene is being done by companies like Colgate Palmolive and by the brands like Close Up. So the only thing which was wrong here, that actually I had talked about oral hygiene and I had quoted the example of Lifebuoy. I should not have quoted the example of Lifebuoy, and that is why I changed it to hygiene. So they are running hygiene awareness sessions in schools, as I said earlier also, and the profit and the benefit would actually accrue to those companies which are selling soaps and which are selling liquid soaps and which are selling sanitizers. And one of these brands which is selling soap is Lifebuoy. So Lifebuoy is going to profit from these kind of awareness sessions, these kind of CSR activities. So CSR activities actually feeding into Lifebuoy's own business. And as I said, oral hygiene awareness camps are also being run by some other marketers like Close Up and Colgate Palmolive also. The reason is there also is the same. Again, many banks also run financial literacy workshops. So banks do what? They are actually organizing these kind of workshops. So they also run these kind of workshops where they provide, they try to improve the financial literacy levels of the individuals. And many a times these kind of workshops are run in relatively remote areas. Don't you think if people are more financially literate, they would start going to banks more regularly, they would start opening up their saving bank accounts or maybe current accounts, or they would start using the bank products, loan products more frequently. Ultimately, don't you think this would bring more and more business to the bank? So when the bank is going for financial literacy workshop, it is basically trying to ensure that ultimately these people who attain financial literacy because of the workshop, ultimately at least some of them would become the customers for these banks, right? So this is how you have to run your CSR activities. Now the task for you is to think of a CSR activity that the Department of Business Administration here in Pithoragarh Degree College can run, and this CSR activity should be such that ultimately feeds into our own business, that brings more number of students to this particular department. So you have to think of it, and this might be there as a question in your test, right? Now that we have understood the two schools of thought regarding CSR, now we are moving on to the current scenario. We are going to take a quick look at so many different companies who are doing a lot for the society as part of their CSR initiative. There are companies who have dedicated divisions for CSR activities and dedicated personnel for CSR activities. So CSR is no more a side activity kind of a thing. It has evolving into one of the main activities being performed by a particular organization, right? So we'll just be browsing through a few examples. So for example, Tata Trusts. Now Tata Trust is a firm. Tata Trust basically is a trust which has stakes in Tata Sons, which is the holding firm for so many different Tata subsidiaries. So for example, what I'm trying to tell you is Tata Trust owns 66% in the Tata Sons. Now what is Tata Sons? Tata Sons is basically the conglomerate which runs various businesses in different sectors of the economy. For example, you've got Tata Steel, you've got Tata Consultancy Service, software sector, you have got the Tata Salt Chemicals, you've got Tata Tetley, a brand of tea, so beverages also. Then you've got Tata Motors Automobiles. So Tata Sons has so many business interests in different sectors of the economy, and 66% of the stake ownership in Tata Sons is of the Tata Trust, right? And Tata Trust engage in so many, they use up almost all the dividend they earn from the stake in Tata Sun in CSR activities. And that is why, and this has been mentioned here, you can have a close look at this. And now have a look. Now this was a little old information. I've just put it here so that you can understand what the Tata Trust have been doing, and that is why they've got a wonderful image, they've been able to generate a lot of goodwill also among the customers. Now this is the areas that they work in: education, healthcare, nutrition, rural livelihood and sanitation. Rural livelihood means some kind of jobs for the rural people, or maybe assistance in starting their own business, and poverty alleviation, sanitation, safai. So this is what Tata Trust has been doing, and at that point of time Ratan Tata ji was the chairman of the trust, right? Now this is what ICICI has done. ICICI actually adopted a particular village. I'm not sure which village it was, but most likely it was a village in Maharashtra. So what did they do there? They converted it into a fully digital village. Have a look at this milestone. यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है digital गांव, and 0 kilometers actually, which you cannot see in this particular picture. Now what did they do? Basically they adopted a village and converted it into a fully digital village. All the process were digitized. No cash chain transactions using digital modes, right? No money withdrawal cash form, digital mode. Even the milk, when it is being supplied to the local cooperative, most of the processes are taking place digitally. So for example, the bill gets generated, you can see here the bill gets generated, then machines operating. So they actually transformed the whole village. And please also understand, this also helped them as well. Why? First, the goodwill that it generated among the villagers and among the larger society. Secondly, the buzz that they were able to create in the market. Oh, ICICI is doing this, okay, great. So people got to know about ICICI. Those who were not aware of ICICI as a big company as far as the banking sector is concerned, they came to know of ICICI. So in that sense, they were able to they were able to increase their goodwill in the market. They were also able to generate goodwill in the market, and they were able to get publicity free of cost in the market, right? So this is one initiative which has been of great use to them, and as I said, CSR activities should be feeding into your business, and that is what this kind of CSR activity has been able to do for them. Now let us talk about Maruti Suzuki, the Institutes of Driving and Traffic Research. Maruti Suzuki runs so many IDTRs, Institutes of Driving and Traffic Research, and these IDTRs not only engage in research related to various traffic related issues, transportation related, mobility related issues, but they also are equipped with state of the art simulators which look almost like a car. So for example, if you want to know how to drive a car, if you want to learn how to drive a car, you can actually use that simulator. So you can actually get feeling of actually driving a car in that simulator. So that is what a simulator does. For aircrafts also we've got simulators. So they will simulate. You would feel as though you are actually driving the car. The screen would show you the car moving, and then you will have actual gears and actual levers. So this is what they do, and this they do so that more and more people can get good quality training. If they want to learn driving, they can be given this opportunity to improve this driving skill of theirs using the best of the technology available there, right? So this is what they learn. If you look at if you go to probably Delhi, Sarai Kale Khan, the moment you start moving from the main bus station towards the central Delhi, towards the Delhi city as such, you would find that there is a Institute of Driving and Traffic Research, IDTR, somewhere near Sarai Kale Khan. So they've got so many such institutes that they have set up in different parts of the country. They are able to create goodwill for themselves, and naturally more people, if they are able to learn driving, what will they do? Naturally, when somebody learns how to drive and then suppose he plans to buy a new car, the first thing that will come to his mind for sure would be Maruti Suzuki. Though he may buy from a different country, that is altogether a different thing, but still the first thing that comes to his mind would be Maruti Suzuki, because he has actually learned the driving skills from a Maruti Suzuki Institute. So this is what Maruti Suzuki has been doing. Then we have got Reliance Foundation. You can see here Mission Rahat Health Camp. So they have been running the health camp here. This is the Reliance Foundation, which is owned by the elder brother, so Mr. Mukesh Ambani, and this is a photograph of a health camp which is being run by the Reliance Foundation. And now let's have a look at Sulabh International. I hope you know what Sulabh International is known for. Have you heard of and have you seen the Sulabh toilets everywhere? So this is the model which was pioneered by Sulabh International and Shri Bindeshwari Pathak. You can have a look here at the head of the Sulabh International, Shri Bindeshwari Pathak. He is sitting along with Vrindavan Widows. Now Vrindavan, you know, is a place which is considered to be a holy place, and earlier customs and traditions were like this, that people, the women who used to get widowed, they used to be sent to Vrindavan by their family members. So, and there they used to live in a situation of penury. They used to live in, very difficult conditions, and they used to beg, simply having no means to earn their livelihood. And so it was thought by Sulabh International that they should be working for the betterment of this section of the society, and then Sulabh International actually decided to do something for the Vrindavan Widows, and now they've been doing a number of activities for the Vrindavan Widows. You can have a look at the Sulabh International's website, and in the Sulabh International website there would be a CSR head wherein you can have a look at what the Sulabh International has been doing. Fine. Now this is one more important thing which I felt is very, very important and relevant to be discussed here. Now please understand, earlier doing CSR was your choice as a firm. It was a choice that you had. You may spend on CSR activities, you may decide not to at all spend on CSR activities, but now that is not the case. In fact, in 2013, when there was an amendment after almost 50-60 years in the Companies Act, this particular provision was brought in. section 135, and it was applicable on those companies which were either having the net worth of more than 500 crores or a turnover of rupees 1000 crore and more than that, or a net profit of more than 5 crores. So these kind of firms, not all the firms, but the firms which qualified in at least one of these criteria. So firms with net worth more than 500 crore or turnover or net profit, they were mandated to contribute something to the CSR activities. So there was a mandatory provision for these kind of firms, and now it is mandatory for these kind of firms to devote their profit, a portion of their profit, to CSR activities. Now the provisions are there, so the firms have to spend at least 2%. So now it is mandatory for them, as I said just now, their 2% of their annual profit in the last year, preceding year. So 2% of their annual profit, so whatever they've earned, whatever has been their profit in the last year, 2% of that they have to reserve. There is no other option. They have to, it is mandatory for them. They have to contribute to, they have to reserve for CSR activities, even if they don't want to. Now it is not left to their volition. Now it is a law here in India, and in fact, probably, if I'm not wrong, India is the only country in the world to have this kind of a regulation, right? Now again, another thing that these kind of companies will have to do is they will have to have a CSR committee to oversee the spending. So there would be a CSR committee which will oversee the spending, which will have a look at how much money is being spent on CSR activities. And government at that point of time had come up with around 10 categories of activities that can be undertaken using the CSR resources. So what all activities can the companies do? Can these businesses contribute to? Can the businesses take up as their CSR activities? Those categories were also defined at that point of time, and they are still defined. Some more additions have taken place in those categories. So those categories have been defined, which means the businesses can choose at least one of them, or they may choose more than one also, and they can work in those areas only. And which particular area they want to choose, that is their call. But they have to limit their CSR activities to those areas which have been specified in the Act, right? Is this okay? So now, as far as India is concerned, CSR activities are mandatory. So with this, we are coming to the end of this session. Now what is expected of you is, you forget the examples that I have discussed. Keep reading newspapers, go to the various websites. And what do I mean by going to various websites? Go to the company's websites and find out what they have been doing. For example, you can take up, let's say, the bank that you probably have an account in. For example, you can take up Union Bank or maybe State Bank of India or Bank of Baroda if you have an account there. Go to their websites under the CSR head. Somewhere they must have talked about their CSR activities. So find out from there what CSR activities do they do. And many times, and please do not go to some other websites which are not credible. Go to the website of a particular firm. There you will be getting this information about their CSR activities. Again, also when you are reading newspapers, many a times some of the CSR activities of the various firms, they get a wide coverage, right? For example, if you talk about the Maruti Suzuki Institute of Driving Train and Traffic Research, they are generally given wide coverage by the popular media also. So what you can do is, you can also, whenever you are reading newspapers, just keep looking for these kind of news articles and remember them or note them down also. So this is another thing that you can do. So what would be expected of you in your tests is that you would give your own examples rather than just copying my examples or just discussing the examples which I've already discussed. So you discuss your own examples, right? And there are n number of such companies and n number of such examples that you can read about, right? So thank you very much. In the next session, we would be moving on to sustainable business practices. Thank you very much.